Do you want to come and work with us in India?
Soon I'll earn enough money to buy you a tin roof.
Welcome to Happiness House.
Why are you locking me in?
Give yourself fully. That's how a goddess serves a god. From now on, sweetheart, you will do what men tell you and smile while you do it till all your debt is cleared.
Now, after 5 years, I'm going back home.
5 years?
I just can't get her out of my head.
We've got to get out of here.
I work with kids from troubled areas in Trinidad, and so I have a sport company to do with that called Empire Sport Vets. So kids is my passion, helping kids is my passion, so I just wanted to know, any avenue in which I could be of assistance. I don't know, because I think, it starts with you, so, yeah.
Absolutely, and I believe that, and I think it's amazing that you want to help. I believe that it's important to be able to spend time with people, build relationship. I think with regards to how can you help, the first thing I think you need to do is to give time. Thank you. You just give time. When I say give time, I mean when you spend time with these kids, it's really important for them to know that they're the most important. Thank you. You have to be all discreet. It's just a napkin. My nose is running. He's being all subtle, but my nose is running, so I don't want to sniff. I think it's really important to give time, and I say that because the sad reality is that often a person who has been exploited, and when I say exploited, I mean sex trafficking, often that person has a need, and quite often that need is time. So therefore, when you're with these young people, I feel it's important that you dedicate and commit time to being with them, when you teach them. Even for the rest of us in this room, how can you help? Give people time. Even just listening. At the end of the day, a lot of us want to be validated. We have women and girls who date a man 10 or 20 years older, and when you ask her why, she said he listens to me. Because at the end of the day, people like Lakshmi need to be listened to. When you listen to her, you hear her story, and then you can do more than sports and activities. You can actually hear her story and then protect her from the hands of the lady you saw in the movie. And it might be like, really, that's Juanita's answer? That is my answer, because it's one of the most important things. Even for us as adults, quite often, we do not get time from the people in our world. Think about when you go out for dinner with friends. Don't we all get our cell phones out? And so, well, maybe you don't. Me and you are going to be friends from tonight. Most people get out the phone, and then their attention is diverted to the phone. And I heard about some young children, and these young children actually made a statement that they really wish their mums and dads would make eye contact with them. And these children grew up in a day and age when it was all about cell phones, but they want that undivided attention. And what we have to understand, when a person has indeed been trafficked, that person, there's a vulnerability. That vulnerability is seen by these individuals. And I say that because you have men and women who are trafficked, and they're re-trafficked and re-trafficked. It's as though there's a sign on their forehead. So by listening and giving undivided attention, you can understand a person's situation, and you can assist and help them. Because at the end of the day, often when a person is being abused, let's say abused, they share it with somebody they feel comfortable with. So you want to build a relationship with these children so you can safeguard and protect them from ending up like Lakshmi. But I appreciate your question. I hope it's helpful. Is there anyone else who has a burning question, thought, comment?
I just kind of shudder to think that this is happening in our country. I mean, this is a movie that is about Nepal, India, but I kind of feel like because of the entire situation happening with Venezuela, and not only Venezuela, but with our own people, with our own women and girls here, that this is actually happening very close to the surface, right under our noses, and we're not see it. That's what kind of frightens me from watching this, because as you look at the film, it's happening right there in the middle of the city.
That's right.
It's right there, it's happening right there, and I just kind of maybe think that from now on, personally, just to be more aware, when you see children, when you see people just, just idling about, you kind of wonder, are they okay? And I mean, you don't know, you never know.
And so I really love what you say, because it's about domestic minor trafficking, domestic adult trafficking. Domestic, unfortunately, I was talking to a person recently on air, and they made a statement that domestic trafficking is when a Venezuelan comes into the country. That's actually incorrect, because that's not domestic. Domestic is when a Trinidadian is trafficked in Trinidad. So, for example, you can have an individual who was born in Port of Spain, who lives in Port of Spain, and is trafficked in Port of Spain. That is what domestic trafficking looks like. And so when you see these prostituted men and women outside, instead of making the assumption that that individual is merely a prostitute, you could consider, in your mind, you could consider for a moment, maybe they didn't choose that lifestyle. And for me personally, I'm a born-again Christian. My faith is what drives me. And I do not believe prostitution is a job for any human being. Because it's interesting, when we call prostitution a job, why is it we ain't doing it? Why is it your son and daughter ain't doing it, but the neighbor's daughter can? I don't understand why prostitution discriminates against our family. Your family members could be doctors, lawyers, teachers, maxi drivers, but not a prostitute. So how is that a job? Because all other jobs do not discriminate. And it's like what you said there, domestic trafficking. When you have a young person in your world, let's say that young person is promiscuous regardless of gender. Instead of judging them, you should ask yourself mentally, why? I'm an attorney. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Juanita Headley. I'm an attorney. I'm a New York attorney from England, Jamaican parents. I'm English born. For me as attorney, I always think about the question, why? When I want to elicit the truth from you, I say, why? So if I think you've done something, I don't say, did you do it? I say, why did you do it? It sounds like I have the knowledge. When you see a young person or an individual who's promiscuous, you should ask yourself, why? Because I know of individuals who are promiscuous. Why? Because they were sexually abused as a child. I know of a young boy in your country. He was sexually abused by his nanny. When he turned teenager and he went to high school, he would get to school early and have sex in the back of the classroom. Now, when I heard that, I got a little bit angry. I was like a little bit bothered by that, because I was like, seriously, have sex on the field? That's disrespectful. But as the Bible says, do not awaken love before it desires. At the end of the day, whether it's in the fields or in the classroom, he's promiscuous as a result of what he went through. Love was awakened early. And then what about when you have little girls and little boys behaving sexually at a young age? Or little boys and little girls who pull down their pants or their skirt? When we see that, not me, but when we as people see that, we sometimes laugh and find it amusing. I do not find that amusing. I have never found it an amusing thing when a child takes on their underwear or their pampers or diapers. The question I have is, who else do they entertain? Because if they find that funny, you have to ask yourself why. I know for myself and many of us in this room, our parents taught us how to dress and undress in private. So when that kind of thing is happening, don't be laughing and all that. You guys have to understand that Lakshmi's story is a lot closer to home than you may think. Because often we see something like this and say, oh, it's just a movie. It's like Taken. It is not like Taken. I have not seen Taken. Can you just show your hands if you've seen Taken? That's really bad. That's terrible. I have not seen Taken, and I talk about human trafficking around the world. Why? Because Taken is not the reality. This is more of a reality. The deception. We have women in certain countries, and they're enticed with the promise of marriage. When you come from poverty and someone offers you something, you're going to take it. And there are poor people around the world. There are individuals who do not believe human trafficking takes place here. But then my question is, how comes it's taking place in England, Ireland, United States, Australia, but not here? That doesn't make sense. I mean, those are wealthy countries. And we even have individuals who are wealthy who are trafficked. I heard of a wealthy white girl in your country who was trafficked. And my friend said, but I don't understand why, because she's wealthy. I said, in my mind, Pimps and traffickers have a currency. If you want time, love, and affection, that is their currency. If you want to get Gucci, Prada, that is the currency. Whatever it is that you want, that is the currency they will use. And saying because somebody's rich, they won't be trafficked, in my opinion, that is naive. Because at the end of the day, this rich girl, maybe her parents are so busy working, so busy cleaning house, they can't give her that love and affection that pimp gives her. Because what you gotta understand, pimps and traffickers, they can groom you for 6 months to a year. So you think that's your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your daddy or sugar daddy, that's just your future pimp. And in South America, we have some of these cartels who would meet, date, groom, and marry a woman to pimp her out. So that's her husband. And so she believes, this is my husband, I'm in love, and I have to sell my body to feed the kids, but her husband is her pimp. So it's not about being paranoid. I'm not into paranoia. Just a little bit about me. I'm a volunteer. I've been volunteering for 6 years unpaid. I've been a New York practicing attorney for 4 years, an unpaid attorney for 4 years. People ask, why is that? Is that a Christian thing? No, 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm black. Number 2, Trump is racist. No, that's not really why. That's what you do, guys. True. No, the real reason, I don't have a green card, a work permit, a visa. So as a result of that, I'm not willing to work without having the paperwork, without having the documents. I'd rather serve the community for free. So he's saying, how can you help? I help by volunteering. When you see something like this, it might make you uncomfortable. Maybe you're like, oh, this is terrible. Some of you may get emotional. Sometimes on the outside, you might cry, or sometimes on the inside. I don't feel that's helpful. I think what's helpful is to do what he's saying, to do something. If you pray, pray. If you have money, donate. If you have time, spend time with these kids, build a relationship, volunteer. There are things that you can do. Because the sad reality is that this is closer to home. And as I usually say when I present, if there's a journey, it starts usually with sexual abuse in the home. And the sad reality is right here, the incest in your country, it is out of control. I met somebody recently and he said, and I think this is a ridiculous statement, I'm opinionated by the way, he said to me that there's a small section of men who sexually abuse in the world. I disagree. Small section, women do it too, right? So women do it too. It's not a small section. When you read or when you hear about a person arrested with 36,000 child pornography images, that's not just one man. That's not just a small section, because these children are different colors, different age, different size, because these men and women who are abused have certain desires. And what you've got to understand, because sexual abuse is linked to trafficking, what you have to understand is that when a person has been abused, that child, that individual, there is a vulnerability that can be exploited later on. So you need to safeguard your children by having dialogue with them, by being open to listen to what they have to say. Because I was on a radio interview, I won't say where, but the individual said things that I was uncomfortable with, and I felt I have to try to rectify that, whether you heard the interview or not. If any child comes up to you and says, can you keep a secret? The first thing you need to do is respond yes. That's the first thing you need to do, is respond yes to that child. Once you've said yes, the child will disclose to you their secret. So I know of a young girl, she's around 14 years of age. Let's say she came up to me and said, can you keep a secret? If I say no or it depends, she will not tell me her secret. So what I do, I say yes. Or I could say, tell me your secret. What is your secret? I want to hear your secret. So the 14-year-old comes up to me and says, can you keep a secret? I say yes. And then she tells me, I'm pregnant with my father's child. It's a true story in the Philippines. Now, when she tells me that, what am I going to do? Are you serious? Really? No, but your dad, he's a police officer. He works in the wherever. No, that's not what I'm going to do. The sad reality is often when parents or adults hear about abuse, they disbelieve it. Why? Because the guy has a business suit. But most abusers have two faces, the one the child sees and the one you see. So the first thing you need to do is say yes, so you can hear the secret. The second thing you need to do, you need to listen to that child. You need to listen to what they have to say. And then, number two, you need to believe that child. You need to believe them. I'm a lawyer, but we're not in court, so I will make this statement outside of the courtroom. In my mind, if I hear that a child or man or woman, an adult, has been abused, the first thing I'm going to think in my mind, that person, in my mind, is guilty until proven innocent. Why do I think like that? Because when I think that way, I'm not going to go and call the accused, hey, I heard you've been abusing your daughter. If they're guilty till proven innocent, I'm going to phone the police. And I'm going to let the police do the investigation. Because the sad reality is when incest occurs, often in the Caribbean, we are shocked, we disbelieve, and we say, let's keep it in the family. That needs to stop, guys. I know of a young boy. This young boy was in Tobago, and he came to school, and he was distressed. And his teacher said, what's wrong? Why are you distressed? And he said, my mom's pregnant. And when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, he's jealous. I'm an only child. So I've heard when a new brother or new sister comes along, jealousy sets in. She said, you should be excited. You're having a new brother or a new sister. And he said, I'm not excited because I don't know if the baby is mine or my brother's. Yeah, I was like that too. Yeah, that's right, in Tobago. Women do it too, guys. Women do it too. So therefore, if you hear a story like that, you're shocked. But remember, guilty until proven innocent. And then this person who interviewed me, they made a statement that if a young child comes to you and says they've been abused, you should listen and take them seriously. But you don't have to believe them, take them seriously, because some children lie. He also said some children are exposed to pornography. The issue I have with that is when you make that statement on air, let's say that you all heard this interview and a child comes up to you, in my mind, the first thought you're going to have, maybe she's been watching pornography. That's going to cause doubt in your mind. But for me, knowing the way that children operate when they're very young, sometimes they lie. But irrespective of that, why are they lying? We need to find out why they're lying. And then number two, when they watch this video or videos, they would describe it in third person. She and he. At the end of the day, when you hear something, you need to do something. Let's stop keeping it in the family. Do you know there's a vast majority of children in your world who've been abused and you simply don't know it? Because you know why? Number one, when they say, can you keep a secret, you say it depends. And then number two, if they tell you, you disbelieve and say, oh, I think you're making it up. At the end of the day, we have to look beyond the surface. You have to understand there are people in your world who have dysfunctions. There are a lot of people in our world who have dysfunctions. We don't understand why. But you've got to dig deeper. The question I always ask myself is why? If you see a young girl outside, or even a young woman, let's say she's pregnant outside of marriage, instead of judging her, I believe you need to ask yourself, who is the father? That's what you've got to ask yourself, because I heard of a woman in Trinidad, a woman, about a week ago when I was in Tobago, I heard a story of a woman who was raped by her brother. Right? So this thing is not just for kids. Understand that. Understand that. Any person can be vulnerable. Any person can be vulnerable. I'm going to share a couple stories with you just to take you on a journey so you guys can bring this back home. I know of a girl. This girl was age 7 and she came to school and she said, Daddy's eating my cookie. That was her genitals. Do not call it cookie or pumpkin or butterfly. Call it what it is. When you call it cookie and that child gets to court, the defense attorney will destroy that child's testimony because it is not a cookie. Call it genitals or private parts or body parts. I know of a woman. This woman wanted her boyfriend to be sexually satisfied. So she said, what would you like? And he said, take photos. So she did. She took photos sexually abusing her 6-month-old baby girl. Imagine if that mother was never caught and arrested. What will that girl do when she has her own 6-month-old baby girl? The same thing. But not always the case. Joyce Myers and Oprah Winfrey with sexually abuses children. We believe they're not pedophiles. You've got to understand something. This thing doesn't just affect girls. Boys are affected too. I meet men and boys in your country who've been sexually abused. And they've never shared it with anybody besides me. Understand it comes knocking at the door and it's closer to home. It's not about paranoia, but I encourage you, put clothing on your children, protect and safeguard them. As I said earlier, I'm a volunteer, so people are like, how do you live? Someone asked me earlier. I was talking for ages outside, telling somebody how I live. It's the God that I serve. People say, oh, but how do you survive? Where do you stay? In short, I live with strangers, I'm driven by strangers, and I eat with strangers. Right now, where am I living? With a stranger who's blessed me abundantly, more than I can ask, think, or imagine. The Lord is faithful. People say that's dangerous. In my mind, that isn't dangerous. Why? There was a guy called Daniel in the lion's den. What about the fiery furnace burning bush? I have a mission, and I want to educate people about this thing, because it's closer to home than we think, and often we don't realize, so we're not able to safeguard. As a result of being a volunteer, every house I live in, I'm a stranger. And I've lived in 3 houses in both islands, and there was a child of 11, 5, and 2. In one of those homes I was in my bedroom. If I'm in your house, that becomes my bedroom. I was in a bedroom, which is mine, inverted commas. The maid, she undresses and dresses the child in my bedroom. I was so uncomfortable. I stood at the door like this. I didn't know where to look. If I was a pedophile, I'd be enjoying the view. Please, guys, put clothing on your children in private. Because the fact is we have incest, so it's not the strangers, it's the people close to home. Whether you're male or female, single mom, single dad, regardless of your gender, dress your children in private. Please, I'm begging you. You can't trust anybody. People trust me, don't even trust me. People do terrible things. The people who you trust, because your guard is down, they come in like a thief to kill, steal, and destroy, and they destroy your child's virginity, you didn't know it. And what you have to understand about abuse includes nudity. When you are naked in front of your child, that's abuse. You're sensitizing that child to your nudity. When they go next door to uncle or auntie, that child will be very comfortable with that nudity, then they get abused. If you're having sex and your kids are in the same room or they can hear it, that's abuse too. That is abuse too. Please understand that. I know of a child sexually abused from the age of 4 to 10 by their stepfather. That child said to their grandparents and their aunt, "Can you keep a secret?" They got an "it depends." As a result of that "it depends," they were a victim of attempted rape for 6 years of their life. 6 years. I know of a boy. He was adopted by 2 individuals, German and Chinese American. They were a married gay couple. The boy was about 7. This couple wanted to adopt another son. In the process of second adoption, it was uncovered they had been sexually abusing son number 1 from birth. They actually chose to adopt for the purpose of sex. So when you guys are reading or hearing about that German couple, the dark web, this has been going on from before the German couple. The first human trafficking story was in the Bible. That was Joseph. That is the first trafficking story. So this thing isn't new. Please understand, it is not new. And then for those of you who like entertainment or you like to make your own entertainment, I strongly discourage you from making pornography in your marriage. Because I mentioned a child abused from 4 to 10 by their stepmother. When that child turned 13, he wanted to start things up again. So he made a home video. I don't know if you get that. He made a video having sex with the child's biological mother. So when you go make a porno video with your spouse, he or her can use that same video to groom your own child. You might be thinking, well, the marriage bed is not defiled. Please don't be making no porno video, please. Please don't do that. And I beg and plead with you because I'm the 4-year-old. I am the one who was a victim of attempted rape from the age of 4 to 10, 6 years. That was my story, that was my experience. And I got an "it depends." Because most people don't understand, why does Miss Headley go around the world doing this stuff for free? She's not paid. I'm trying to be the superhero for other people. I'm trying to rescue others from the situation I was in. By the grace of God, I have never been trafficked by the grace of God, but it could have happened. I actually met a guy in Movie-Town, this same Movie-Town outside. And when I was out there, this guy, he started talking to me. And he said to me, "I heard your accent." He said, "I heard your accent, so I wanted to talk." We started talking. And then he told me he has a student sexually abused at 5 and then at 10. And at 16, she's a lesbian. And then he told me he has a video. So I was confused. I didn't know what this video was. Then light bulb, it was a pornographic video of his student he wanted me to see. That's right outside this Movie-Town. And when I've been asking people, why did he want me to see that video? The adults in the room, they say, because you're a lawyer. But that's wrong. Outside of the police station with my client, it's a crime for me to watch child pornography. And I do not work with pedophiles knowingly. Because of course I work with pedophiles, so do most of you in this room. You simply don't know it. And then he messaged me on WhatsApp and he said, when I first met you, I said it was your accent, I lied. Quote, I want to follow my interior. So I'm thinking that's a Trinidad term where I come from. I want to follow my heart, my passions, or maybe my hormones, after marriage, of course. I never heard this interior. I went to a boys' school and they said, Miss, it's like that cookie story. Daddy's eating my cookie, e.g. cookie, aka interior, aka my genitals. And then, as I was saying earlier, I live with strangers, right? Driven by strangers, eat with strangers. People can call it dangerous. I've been doing it for 6 years. My God is protecting me. Even if you don't believe in him, there's a God in my world. Because it is kind of dangerous. Now, one guy, he saw me on TV about 5 p.m. a couple months ago. ACTN The Voice Christian station. He saw me on TV at 5. And then at 6 p.m. I went to his church to give a presentation. When I got to his church, he thought my wife has arrived. We eventually started talking and he offered me a ride. I asked God and then he said, sure, so I agreed. He picked me up, my personal assistant in the back of the car, and he proceeds to drive me home. He drops her off and then we continue down the road. Now when most people drive, they drive like this. He was driving like this. I thought I was going to die because he wasn't looking at the road. He wasn't young and hot, so I did not like the attention. I mean, if he was attractive, maybe, but he really wasn't, so I didn't like all that. And then he said to me, I'm serious, he was old. He was old. And then he said to me, I could be a trafficker. And I said to him, well, if you are a trafficker, my PA saw you and your license plate, and the security cameras in MIC recorded you. And he said to me, is that the lawyer talking? I said, yes, it is. But everything I said to him was true. A while later, one of my friends said to me, who was that Uber driver your PA ordered? Next time use pepper spray. So maybe he was a trafficker, but that day he was on strike, right? If your name is Daniel and you're in the den, the lions are on a fast. It's kind of like that, right? Because for all I know, he could have been. And what you have to understand is even though he was a stranger, I know his church. I know his pastor. But when you've been trafficked, that won't help you. That won't help you. Understand something. Men and women can be trafficked too. Understand something. If they can utilize a 5-year-old child for making rugs in India, they can utilize everyone in this room. If you have a disability, a physical disability, they can utilize you. In India and in parts of Europe, they will amputate you or they will sort of distort your body parts so you can beg. In India, there are people who have these strange disabilities we've never seen before. They're not natural, they're not from birth. And they will have you there begging. So that means if an individual who is disabled can be trafficked and a 5-year-old can be trafficked, everyone in this room can be. So it's not about paranoia, but you've got to safeguard yourself. I believe that we need to protect ourselves by letting people know where we are, who we're going with. Because at the end of the day, we have all these girls going missing in your country. All these girls, where are they? Run out with boyfriends? Seriously? Where are they? I believe every time you get into a vehicle, you need to take a photograph of the license plate and the person's face. Because let's be real, those girls who went missing and they got into a cab, if they took a photograph, we would know where to start. Maybe not where it ended, we would know the beginning. You see that picture and then you do your detective work. At the end of the day, all of us are human beings who are not invincible, who could be exploited for whatever reason. And I want you guys to try and be more empathetical to the people you see outside. When you see a woman on a street corner, don't be judging her. You don't know her story. You don't know what led her to be there. You have no idea. It's only by the grace of God that none of us are in that position. If you were born to a different family, if you were born in another country, in a different era, none of us can say that couldn't have been us because you simply don't know. You simply don't know. Does anybody else have a question? I don't want to just rattle away. Yes, we have a question here.
You mentioned the guy in church. I just wanted to touch on something, and it's not just because I'm a Catholic, but which is obvious. But also to talk and to ask about your take on churches, both their response and also abuse in the church, because it happens.
With regards to the response, I think it's important for us not to judge, because I often find that in the church environment, we can be very judgmental. I'm human and I am judgmental. I'm real transparent. You love me or hate me, I don't care. I'm transparent. I am a human and I can be judgmental too. But I feel it is not our place to judge somebody who comes in with a story. And that story could be verbal or it could be physical. When I say physical, there are women who are living a certain lifestyle of exploitation, for example, and they come in with a short dress. Let's not judge them, let's hear their story. Like I said, listen and believe. If a person comes to you and tells you something, don't just disregard it. I actually know of 2 stories in your country of 2 women who were sexually abused and raped by pastors. One of these individuals, she actually wanted me to visit the church that she was in so that I could give my presentation. I think she may have thought by me coming and presenting on human trafficking that the pastor would have been maybe convicted. Now my friends were scared. They said, oh, don't do that. I believe in the power of prayer. I pray to God through Jesus Christ directly and only through Jesus Christ. And so for me, if God wants me there, he's going to open the door. So I told my friends, I want you to pray for me because I want to go to pedophile pastor's church on Sunday. All right, forgive me, but I mean, he kind of was a pedophile pastor. But anyhow, so I told my friends, pray for me, please. I want to be in his church on Sunday. My personal assistant called this pastor and he didn't answer his phone. She called and eventually he texts back, I'll get back to you. On Monday, we're praying around the world that I can go to PP's church, Pedophile Pastor's Church, right? We're just praying hard on Monday. On Tuesday, he died. So I don't know what they prayed, but he died on Tuesday. I'm so serious. I'm serious. Prayer is powerful, right? It's true. But the point is, I wanted to educate and empower him on this issue. Now, this might sound ridiculous, but if I had had the opportunity to meet this pastor, I would have felt privileged and honored. Why? Because I know what you've done. And when I shake your hand and love you, that isn't easy. Think about if you hear a story of abuse by somebody close to you. That is difficult. That is very, very difficult. Judging will not change the situation. And the sad reality is all we hear about is the Catholic Church. Those 2 people I mentioned, the 2 women, one of them, the pastor died, the other one is still alive. They were not Catholic. So I think we have to leave the Catholic Church alone. It's in the media, but it happens in other denominations, in other religions. At the end of the day, it's a person who takes advantage of another for their sexual high, so to speak. And what we have to understand is that things have changed now. Back in the old days, it was just sexual abuse. But now it's more than sexual abuse. It's sexual abuse, and then it's also profit. That means a man or a woman will sexually abuse the child, and then he'll take pictures and videos and sell it. And that's the reason why you don't tell the accused what you've heard, because they'll destroy the evidence. Remember what I said? Guilty till proven innocent. Let the police do the investigation. Don't do the detective work. Don't be asking inquisitory questions. Allow the police to do their part. At the end of the day, I believe that people are people. I believe every one of us is a human being. I heard of a story on Facebook, I believe. It was about a man. This man was married. On his wedding night, his wife died. When people heard that, they were angry. They were calling him a murderer. Now, if I wanted to see change in Yemen, I would eat like them, dress like them, and act like them without compromising my faith in Jesus Christ. And then I would say, Mr. Yemen, marriage is good. Marriage is a beautiful thing. But your wife was 6. He was 40. When people are shocked by that, I don't get it. Because in my country, England, where I'm from, and in your country, there are men of 40 having sex with 6-year-olds all the time, and it's not their wife. I'm not agreeing with child marriage. I'm trying to make a point. I know for a girl in your country, this girl was sexually abused by her stepfather when she was 1 to 6 months old. 1 to 6 months old. Any one of us in this room could have been abused besides myself, but you just don't know it. You just don't know it. If you want to see change anywhere, you have to change the way you think and the way you communicate. I do not believe in murderers, rapists, or pedophiles. I believe in human beings with a tendency to rape, human beings with a tendency to murder, human beings with a tendency to have sex with children. Because doesn't God see us as human beings? As a lawyer, I can say every single one of us in this room, myself included, has committed a crime. I don't mean you didn't know it was a crime. I'm saying, as a lawyer, every single one of us in this room have committed a crime. And it is probably theft. If you have ever taken something without consent, your mom's lipstick, your dad's aftershave, cookie, $1, that is theft. Now imagine you steal $1 at home and you go outside and steal $1. At home, you don't get caught, but outside you get caught and arrested. So you become a thief. I have a question. If every single one of us has indeed stolen, taken something without one's consent, whatever that may be, lipstick, aftershave, cookie, etc., does that make you guys thieves? Yes or no? Some of you are real honest. Some of you are shy. You're not thieves, guys. Why? You were not caught. I'm serious. You were not caught. At the end of the day, legally, we were all thieves, but we were never caught. In the same way that you are not a thief, in the same way, how do you have a right to point the finger at somebody else? When you call somebody murderer, that's all they can be. There is life and death in the tongue. We have to change our words. All we do is bash the Catholic Church. We need to quit that. It's human beings who have a tendency to have sex with kids who happen to be Catholic. Because not every Catholic priest is a pedophile. That really frustrates me. All we do is focus on Catholics. It is not just them. It is not just men. It is not just women. I know of a child in your country. This child was 5. This child sexually abused their 3-year-old cousin. They weren't Catholic. I heard a story recently about an American man. This American man, when he was a child in nursery, he was sexually abused during prayer meeting. And it wasn't Catholic. That confuses me because in prayer meeting, people's eyes are open. When it comes to human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago, there is nothing being reported in the media unless it's to do with immigration, the Venezuelans. And I have spoken to individuals in your country who have told me stories of domestic trafficking, attempted domestic trafficking. I believe it's happening here, but the information is not available. But I believe when you have men and women and sex, you have sex trafficking. I believe when you have restaurants, businesses, and establishments, you have labor trafficking. And I believe when you have sick people, people with ailments, you have organ trafficking. Because it's just simply exploitation, that's all it is. It's taking advantage of another human being, whether it is for profit or for frills. So although the statistics are not there, if it's happening in India, Philippines, China, America, Ireland, the US, Jamaica, not here, let's be real. And if it's not happening here, it soon will. Because a certain person, no names mentioned, she loves to say, there's no trafficking here. So when she's saying that, that's going to open the doorway for traffickers. Let's be real. If I was a trafficker, I'd be right here. Because it's not happening in our country. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So they're going to start. If they haven't started, they're going to start. I understand that. Anyone else? Questions?
You know, Sally, the authorities in any of these countries that you've been to, are you satisfied with what they're doing to help the situation?
It depends which country. I mean, right here, the authorities are doing their best, but everybody seems to believe that this place is corrupt, that Trinidad and Tobago is corrupt. Things are being done, but not enough is being done. That's the problem. But more can be done by you guys talking about this, by you educating and empowering others, getting the message out there. We've got to be able to share this thing that we've seen, what we've heard. We've got to be able to share so we can safeguard the people in our world. We've got to be able to protect other people from being exploited, because any one of us could be vulnerable. Anyone else? Any more fight? Yes?
All the films, all the talk, all the empathy about human trafficking is based on the person who has been trafficked. And since nothing is shown about the person who is doing the trafficking, there usually is nothing put in place to fix that, to help the trafficker. And until the trafficker and the abuser and so on get help, they will continue. So we're always mopping up.
Yes.
And it will never go away until we could do prevention. And so I would just like to suggest that should your group or any other groups do another movie, it would be from the point of the trafficker.
That's awesome.
So that we can see how a trafficker become a trafficker. And the steps that we can go to help that trafficker to bring them back to normal.
That's really awesome. And just to educate you before I let you guys go, we actually have pimps and traffickers who get pimp certified, because they've attended pimp school and they read Pimpology 101, which is available on Amazon. So the material is out there and there are pimps who want to share about how to be a good pimper and all this kind of thing. This film is not mine. I just have been to India. I've been to 28 countries in my young life. I've been to India. I love India. There's a lot of negative press about India, dowry murders, honor killings, incest. I think it's the best country in the world. And I show this movie despite being about trafficking because of my passion. But there are movies like that. And this is a lot of work. So I'm thankful you guys are here, but this is a lot of work to fill the room. So this is my last film. If you want to take up the baton, you can do that. But this is a lot of work. And then just finally, I mean, you guys can talk to me outside. My information is there. If you happen to know anywhere I can speak on human trafficking, anywhere at all, I just got an extension on my stay here. I'll be here till around October 10th. If you know anywhere I can speak on human trafficking for free, please reach out to me. My business card is out there. My number is out there. I want to go and educate the entire nation so that we're all clued up, so we can all be our brother's keeper. Because at the end of the day, when these girls go missing, we never see or hear from them again. And the sad reality is often people don't care about it till it comes on their doorstep. And we shouldn't have to be that way. If we can be our brother's keeper, that's going to change the dynamics. If we can understand a pimp and trafficker, we can safeguard one another. So I just want to tell you about my 3 dreams, and I'll let you guys go. The first dream I have, when I grow up, I want a paid job. That is my first dream. Right? So if anyone of you wants to hire me, I will take it. Dream number 2, I want to build an orphanage in the Philippines. I have a real heart for the Philippines. I absolutely love the country. I want to have an orphanage there. I desire to adopt Filipino street kids. I want to build an orphanage. And then dream number 3, I want to open a bakery with open hiring policy. So what is open hiring policy? Open hiring policy is hiring individuals who are homeless but of sane mind. Hiring individuals, male and female, who've left the sex industry. Hiring individuals who have been exploited, who have been taken advantage of, and those who've been kicked out of jail. I want to hire ex-convicts. I believe that God came for everybody. I believe in 70 times 70, just like God does. In New York, you may not know this, I learned this recently, once you've committed a felony conviction, you cannot get free housing, you cannot get free benefits, you cannot, so what do? Keep committing crimes. I have an issue with that, big time. I have a huge issue, because the vast majority of people in jail in New York are Black and Hispanic. And then they keep committing crimes and keep going to jail. Many of you may know of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. In the United States, Ben & Jerry's has a brownie factory. In that brownie factory, every employee is an ex-convict. I want to do the same thing as Ben & Jerry, and I had my dream before them. I'm serious. I had that dream before. I'm not an ex-convict, guys. You might think, wow, she's got this real heart. No, I'm not an ex-convict. I just love to help people for free. That's just my heart. And I want to build a bakery in your country, Tobago and/or Trinidad, so that I can empower people. Thank you. I want to empower people. I want to provide jobs. I want to support your people. So I would love you to support me. There's 2 ways you can support me. The first one, you can check me out on Facebook. My card is out there. My Facebook is Changing Cases. That's the first way. The second way you can support, we have a donation bag. Everything I do is for free. Tomorrow, I was supposed to be speaking at a school. It's an anonymous school. I won't say the name. I'm a volunteer. When I travel around the world, I sometimes sleep on floors like this. Never been on the street, but I sleep on floors like that. And I wanted to speak at a school. I was invited to speak tomorrow, Friday, anonymous school. And I said, could you provide transport or the cab fare? And they refused. How can an unpaid lawyer pay 200 TT to speak for free? That's not reasonable. But the God that I serve, I said, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. I will not beg, borrow, or steal, but I trust the Lord will provide for me. So I messaged her, I'm willing to come, and she's cancelled. But I get to save my 200 TT. But there's a donation bag, so please donate. Please donate. I'm kind of an extra small because I skip meals. Like, seriously, I skip meals. Why? Because I'd rather feed the homeless when I'm in India and the Philippines. Why? When I speak, I get fed. Every time I do a speaking engagement, they give me a meal. If I don't speak, I don't eat. If I don't speak, I don't leave my house. This is a multi-billion-dollar criminal industry. Pimps and traffickers want to take people like me out. My friends have people try to kill them. It's not a paranoia thing. When I'm asking for an example, for example, for a name of a good cab driver, I need somebody you trust. Because at the end of the day, if I'm the only one talking about this here, they're going to have an issue with me. Let's pretend that I'm McDonald's for a minute. and KFC moves next door, if I start to sell KFC chicken, they're going to have a problem with that. You understand? So please, if you know of a place I can speak, my life does not revolve around speaking, it revolves around Jesus Christ. But when I'm here, it feels like it does because I don't leave my house unless I speak. I feel like I'm in jail. So please let me out of jail. And then the third thing too, like I said, there's a donation bag. Please donate. If you want to hang out and be my friends, like, seriously, and take me for lunch and dinner. And if I can move into your place, no, I'm kidding. Not really kidding, but slightly kidding. And then finally, I'm not as young as I look, and I'm very single. So you don't need hot Christian single guys. Thank you so much for coming, guys, and thank you for listening. Have a good night.